I'm Mr. Mega Man fan and welcome back to Genesis Does. A few years ago, I would have had second thoughts about making this video. I would have said, I don't need to talk about this because it's only going to point out that people don't have this in the United States and it's going to drive the price up even more than it already is. But now, several years later, we have legal and readily available alternatives. You can buy a Genesis Mini for anywhere from 50 to 60 bucks. You might pay a little more for a Mega Drive Mini if you import, but Rockman Mega World or Mega Man The Wily Wars is no longer exclusive to Europe, Japan, and the Sega Channel. Ever since September 19th, 2019, the whole world has been able to play this game at an affordable price. Before that, you would have been paying $511 for a complete in-box European copy and about $250 for Rockman Mega World, so I'd say 50 bucks isn't a bad price to pay by comparison to that. Even if you had to pay the original retail price of the Genesis Mini, which was $79.99 in the US, still a bargain compared, and you throw in a Retrobit 6-button controller for another 20 bucks, that's $100, still a bargain. But let's backtrack a little on that and tell you the history of this before it came out on the Genesis Mini. Mega Man The Wily Wars was released as Rockman Mega World in Japan October 21st, 1994, and then on the Sega Channel December 31st, 1994. If you had TCI or Time Warner cable and a subscription to the Sega Channel, you could download games over a cable modem to your console, but they were only on the cartridge until you turned off the power. So even if you had the Wily Wars, you didn't get to keep it, you just got to play it while the power was on. And you could download as many games as you wanted for that monthly subscription, but none of them were permanently stored. So if you wanted a physical edition, you had to get Rockman Mega World from Japan, or later, the Wily Wars from Europe, when it finally came out there April 3rd, 1995. Came out around the same time in Australia as well. So there are a few variants out there, but they've been expensive since day one, and they've only gotten steadily more expensive over the years as Mega Man collectors in the United States who never got it clamored to have a copy of their own. That's the story of the physical edition of the game, but that's not the story of the game itself. Rockman Mega World or Mega Man The Wily Wars, whichever one you prefer, is a compilation of the first three games in the Mega Man Rockman series that were exclusive to 8-bit Nintendo. So yes, in fact, Genesis does what Nintendo does in this case, because these are the first three games in that series, remixed, remastered, new graphics, new sound, but that's not entirely because they were trying to upgrade it. I mean, yeah, it is playing on a 16-bit console as opposed to an 8-bit console, but they also had to redo it because otherwise it wouldn't be playable. Now, years and years later, people have actually found ways to make a EverDrive for Mega Drive or Genesis work with NES ROMs. It's a rather creative and clever hack, but if you do it, the colors and the sounds are still going to be a little bit off, and not all games are going to be compatible due to mappers and limitations of the hardware. So, you might be able to play Mega Man 1, 2, and 3 on a Genesis these days, but you wouldn't have been able to 20 plus years ago. That was just not possible back in the early 2000s when there weren't even EverDrives available for a Sega Genesis console. That said, this is more than just the first three games with a new coat of paint on it. There's also a special bonus mode that occurs when you beat all three of the first three games. Then you unlock something that's called the Wily Tower, a special bonus area exclusive to this game. And how does the game know that? Well, it saves your progress, of course. It's got battery backup, so it knows where you've been in the game and what you've done. Each robot master you defeat, it keeps track of that. Each time you save your progress, it keeps track of that. And once you've beaten all three games, it knows because it's always going to forever remember on that particular save file that you've completed all of the achievements that you need to unlock that extra area. So, there is more here than just playing the first three games all over again. That wouldn't be a bad thing in my eyes anyway, because those are three of the greatest platforming games of all time. I'm not called Mr. Mega Man fan for nothing. I heart these games. In fact, even playing it on a Sega Genesis or a Genesis Mini or an emulator, any way you can play Mega Man The Wily Wars, it feels perfectly normal to me, despite looking remixed and remastered and the sound and graphics being a little different. It still plays the way I expect it to. The same layouts to the stages, the same robot masters with the same weaknesses. They didn't like sneak anything in or try to fudge it or redo it. It just plays like the original 8-bit games do. I've heard some people say that it's not as responsive. I don't feel that way when I play it with a 6-button controller. On the Genesis Mini, I use my Retrobit USB 6-button controller. It feels great that way. If I play it on an emulator on my MacBook, I also use the Retrobit USB 6-button Genesis controller for that, and it's just as good. And if I play it on the original Sega Genesis through my Wily Wars copy that I own, I can just use a region converter and play it on that, and it's obviously going to work just like a Genesis cart would. And if you put it in an analog, it can detect the region, and you can play it on your analog in high definition. So there are so many different ways to play this. One thing you'll notice here during the Cutman boss fight is there is a significant amount of lag. I feel that's actually pretty accurate to the original games, because when you had multiple shots and multiple enemies on the screen at one time, the Nintendo would lag quite a bit trying to keep up with all the different sprites, because it could only render so many sprites at one time. So I could have overclocked this for emulation, but I wasn't going to do that. I'm going to give you the authentic experience, because actually, in my view, this is how you should play it. If it lags in real life, it should lag when you do it on an emulator too. And because of that, if you develop strats for the real system, those strats will work in an emulator if you play it the same way. For example, when Cutman starts to lag everything during this fight, you can actually use it like the Matrix. Time slows down, and you can time where he's going to be and time your shots to intersect him, and you can cheese the fight. You can do it without having any of the weapons that he's weak to and nothing but your Mega Buster, and you can power your way through the fight just by avoiding his cut blade when he throws it and shooting ahead of where he's going to be before he even gets there. You just practice and get the timing down, and sooner or later, victory will be yours. It took me a couple of tries here because I'm a little out of practice with Genesis The Wily Wars, so my strats are a little more finely tuned to NES games. However, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to prove that it can, in fact, be done. And I always start with Cutman when I play Mega Man 1 anyway. That's been my go-to ever since I first started playing this game, just like I always do Bubble Man at the start of Mega Man 2. I know there are different boss orders for different people, and they have different strats. Over at one of my favorite websites, mmhp.net, they suggest going Bomb Man, Guts Man, Cut Man, Elect Man, Ice Man, Fireman. But to me, it still works out the same way if you start with Cut Man and use him on Elect Man, and so on and so on. You just start at a different point and progress through the order in that way. And you can do that any of the games with any of the Robot Masters. Once you have one defeated, then you've got a weakness for another one, so you can just chain it all together any way that you like. Don't feel obligated to follow a suggested order just because there's one out there on the internet. If you want to freestyle it, go right ahead. Hell, if you want to beat every Robot Master in a Mega Man game only using your Mega Buster, do that. I know some people get a kick out of proving they can run the entire game without using a single one of the weapons. If that's your cup of tea, drink it. Please, I'm not telling you there is a right way or a wrong way to play any of the Mega Man / Rockman games. If you're having fun, it's the right way to play. If you're using cheats and giving yourselves unlimited lives because you're not a elite gamer and you want to just be able to explore all of the levels without just having to restart from the beginning over and over again because you ran out of lives, do that. If you're playing it on an EverDrive Nate Pro with save states so that you don't have to go back even if you're not using cheats, then do that too. I am not judging you. I want you to have fun and play games the way you want to play them. And I think this is a unique and fun way to play the first 3 Mega Man games. I give high praise to the designers of the Genesis Mini for making the decision to include it in their library of built-in games. I'm Mr. Mega Man Fan. Thank you for watching, and happily we now live in a world where this game is affordable and available to everyone. So please find a copy and enjoy it for yourself. I'll see you next time.